Welcome back to UK Flicks, where we pull back the curtain on the reality TV stories you think you know completely. Today, we are breaking down a massive, life-altering development within the world of TLC's beloved Seven Little Johnstons. For years, fans have watched Johnston grow.
Sat at the large dining table with several sheets of paper spread out in front of him. The wedding was getting closer every day, and although he felt excited, he also wanted everything to be perfect. One thing kept occupying his mind more than anything else: his wedding speech. He had rewritten it several times already. Every version sounded different when he read it aloud. Sometimes it felt too serious, sometimes it sounded too short. Other times it seemed like he was trying too hard to impress everyone. As he stared at the page, he heard footsteps coming down the hallway. Jonah walked into the room carrying a cold drink and immediately noticed the pile of papers. "Still working on that speech?" Jonah asked with a smile. Bryce nodded. "I've been working on it all morning." Jonah laughed softly. "That must be the longest wedding speech in history." Before Bryce could respond, Alex entered the room. "What are you two talking about?" Alex asked. "The famous speech," Jonah replied dramatically. Alex's eyes widened. "Oh, this is important." Bryce shook his head and laughed. "You two are not making this easier." Alex pulled out a chair and sat down beside him. "Actually, we're here to help." Bryce looked at both brothers suspiciously. "Help?" "Of course," Jonah said. "We're experts." Bryce raised an eyebrow. "Experts at what exactly?" Jonah and Alex exchanged glances. "Good question," Alex admitted. Everyone laughed. Despite the jokes, Bryce appreciated having them there. Wedding planning had been busy, and it felt good to take a break and spend time with friends. Bryce picked up one of the papers. "Okay, listen to this." He cleared his throat and began reading. "Today is one of the happiest days of my life." He paused. "What do you think?" Jonah nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good start." Alex agreed. "Simple and honest." Bryce looked relieved. "Really?" "Absolutely," Alex said. Bryce continued reading. He spoke about family, friendship, and the journey that had brought everyone together. The room grew quieter as Jonah and Alex listened carefully. When Bryce finally reached the end, he lowered the paper. "So?" For a moment, neither brother spoke. Then Jonah smiled. "I like it." Alex nodded. "Me too." Bryce leaned back in his chair. "That's good to hear." "But," Jonah said. Bryce groaned. "There's always a but." Jonah laughed. "Only a small one." Alex pointed toward the paper. "It needs a little more of your personality." Bryce considered the suggestion. "What do you mean?" "You tell great stories," Alex explained. "Everyone knows that. Add one or two personal memories." Jonah nodded. "Something that makes people smile." Bryce thought for a moment. "You might be right." The three of them began discussing different memories. Some were funny, some were meaningful. Each suggestion sparked another conversation. Soon, the serious speech rehearsal had turned into a fun afternoon full of laughter. At one point, Jonah stood up dramatically. "Okay, I have an idea." Bryce immediately looked concerned. "That worries me." Alex laughed. "It worries me too." Jonah ignored both comments. He grabbed a spoon from the kitchen and held it like a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen." His voice echoed through the room. Alex burst out laughing before Jonah could continue. Bryce shook his head. "This is exactly why I wasn't sure about asking for help." Jonah continued anyway. "We are gathered here today because Bryce has finally decided to stop being nervous." The room erupted with laughter. Bryce covered his face. "I am definitely not putting that in the speech." Alex stood up and joined the performance. "If you're going to practice, you need a proper audience." He quickly pulled several empty chairs into a row. "There, wedding guests." Jonah pointed at one chair. "That's Grandma." He pointed at another. "That's the cousin who cries during every speech." Alex pointed toward a third chair. That's the person who laughs at everything. The two brothers continued assigning personalities to the empty chairs. Bryce couldn't stop laughing. For the first time all day, the pressure seemed to disappear. Eventually, Jonah sat back down. Seriously, though, you're going to do great. Bryce smiled. Thanks. Alex nodded. Everyone will be happy just hearing what you have to say. Bryce looked down at the speech again. Maybe they were right. He didn't need to make it perfect. He just needed to make it genuine. That realization made everything feel much easier. The next hour passed quickly. Together they adjusted a few lines, removed a few unnecessary sections, and added some personal stories. Every change made the speech feel more natural. Finally, Bryce stood up. Okay. Jonah looked at him. Ready? Bryce nodded confidently. Ready. Alex clapped his hands. Let's hear the new version. Bryce took a deep breath and began reading once again. This time the words flowed naturally. He smiled while telling the stories. He spoke with confidence. Most importantly, he sounded like himself. When he finished, the room fell silent for a moment. Then Jonah started applauding. Alex joined immediately. The applause echoed through the room. Bryce laughed. That good? Jonah nodded. That good. Alex pointed toward the paper. Don't change another word. For the first time all day, Bryce truly believed the speech was ready. As the afternoon sunlight filled the room, the three friends continued talking and laughing together. The wedding day was getting closer. There would still be plenty of planning left to do. There would still be moments of nervousness, but thanks to Jonah and Alex's unexpected help, Bryce felt more prepared than ever before. And as everyone headed out later that evening, one thing was clear. The wedding speech wasn't just about finding the perfect words. It was about sharing real memories, celebrating important relationships, and enjoying every moment along the way. The following morning, Bryce woke up feeling more confident than he had in weeks. The speech was finally finished, and for the first time, he wasn't constantly thinking about changing every sentence. The advice from Jonah and Alex had helped more than they probably realized. As the wedding day continued getting closer, everyone seemed to be busy with one task or another. Family members were making plans, checking schedules, and making sure every detail was coming together perfectly. Later that afternoon, Bryce received a message from Jonah. Speech practice round 2. Be here in 30 minutes. Bryce laughed as soon as he read it. He quickly replied. At one point, Jonah told a story that had everyone laughing so hard they had to stop walking for a moment. Bryce shook his head. I completely forgot about that. Alex laughed. I don't think anyone will ever forget that. The conversation continued for nearly an hour. By the time they returned, the sky was painted with beautiful evening colors. There was a sense of excitement in the air. The wedding wasn't just another event anymore. It was becoming a reality. Later that evening, Bryce sat quietly for a moment, looking at the speech one final time. He remembered how uncertain he had felt only a few days earlier. Every sentence had seemed impossible. Every word had felt important. Now everything was different. The speech wasn't perfect because every sentence was flawless. It was perfect because it was honest. That realization made him smile. A short time later, Jonah entered the room. You still looking at it? Bryce nodded. Just one last time. Jonah sat down beside him. You know something? What? You don't need that paper anymore. Bryce looked at him. You think so? I know so, Bryce smiled. Those simple words meant a lot. Alex walked into the room moments later. Are we having another speech discussion? Jonah shook his head. No. Alex looked surprised. Really? Really? Alex smiled. Good, because I think he's ready. Bryce laughed. Thanks for believing in me. Alex shrugged. We always did. For a moment, nobody said anything. The quiet wasn't awkward. It felt comfortable. It felt like friendship. the kind of friendship built through countless conversations, shared memories, and moments of support. As the night continued, excitement about the wedding only grew stronger. Everyone knew a wonderful day was approaching, a day filled with family, celebration, and unforgettable memories. And while there would be many important moments during the wedding, one thing was certain. When Bryce finally stood up to give his speech, he wouldn't be standing there alone. The encouragement, laughter, and support from Jonah and Alex would be right there with him. Their help had transformed a simple speech into something much more meaningful. It had become a reminder of friendship, family, and the people who always show up when it matters most. The wedding day was now only a short time away, and everyone was ready for the celebration to begin.